tetrachromacy ever had an argument about whether something is teal or green, and you were absolutely certain you were right? For a small number of people, that argument isn't stubbornness. It's a genuinely different visual operating system. Most humans are trichromats, meaning we have 3 types of cone cells in our eyes for color detection. But a rare genetic variation, almost always in women because it's linked to the X chromosome, produces a 4th cone type, allowing the brain to distinguish an estimated 100 million colors instead of the standard 1 million. Researchers studying this trait, including notably Dr. Gabriele Jordan at Newcastle University, have confirmed functional tetrachromats exist, though true ones remain exceptionally rare, since the extra cone has to actually be wired into active color processing to count. If you've ever been told you're too picky about paint swatches, and there's a small chance your eyes are quite literally running a higher resolution display than everyone else's, misophonia, you're sitting at a table, someone starts chewing, and it feels less like mild annoyance and more like your nervous system just got hijacked. That reaction isn't rudeness or oversensitivity. Misophonia is a real, studied neurological response where specific trigger sounds cause a genuine fight or flight surge. Brain imaging studies, including research out of Newcastle University, published in Current Biology, have found that people with misophonia show heightened connectivity between the auditory cortex and the brain's emotional control centers, meaning the sound isn't just heard, it's processed as a threat. It's a short one to explain, but a big one to live with. Your brain isn't overreacting on purpose. It's running a wiring pattern that treats certain frequencies as genuinely urgent. So if a chewing sound has ever made you want to leave a room entirely, that wasn't a personality flaw, that was biology hitting an alarm switch most people don't even have installed. Supertasting, some people bite into a piece of dark chocolate and taste rich complexity. Supertasters bite into the same piece and taste something closer to bitter overload. This comes down to a measurable, countable trait. Supertasters simply have a higher density of fungiform papillae, the small structures on the tongue that house taste buds, and it's estimated to affect roughly 25% of the population, with a stronger presence in women. Researcher Linda Bartoshuk, who helped pioneer this field of study, experienced bitterness, sweetness, and spice with noticeably greater intensity than the average taster. It explains a lot of picky eater reputations that were never really about pickiness at all. Sometimes the food genuinely tastes stronger to that person than it does to you. Your dinner table has probably had one of these running the whole time without anyone realizing it: asparagus anosmia. Here's a strange, small one. After eating asparagus, some people notice a distinct smell in their urine, and some people notice absolutely nothing at all. For a long time, scientists assumed everyone produced the compound, but only some people could smell it. A large genome study out of Harvard and MIT eventually traced the difference to variations near the OR2M7 gene, part of the cluster responsible for smell receptors, confirming this is a genuine detection difference, not a production difference. It's one of the smallest genetic quirks on this list, but also one of the easiest to test in your own kitchen tonight. If you've never noticed anything unusual after a plate of asparagus, that's not you being unobservant. Your smell receptors may simply not be built to catch that particular signal. PTC tasting, some people take one bite of Brussels sprouts and register nothing unusual. Others take one bite and immediately understand why children have been rejecting green vegetables for generations. This comes down to a gene called TAS2R38, which determines sensitivity to a bitter compound called PTC, closely related to compounds naturally found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and kale. Roughly 25% of people are non-tasters, about 50% are moderate tasters, and the remaining 25% are highly sensitive tasters who experience an intense, sometimes overwhelming bitterness from the exact same bite everyone else at the table just swallowed without issue. It's a trait scientists have used in classrooms for decades using literal PTC test strips, because unlike most genetic traits, This one you can actually taste test in under 30 seconds. So next time someone insists a vegetable is basically poison, they might not be exaggerating nearly as much as you think. Natural malaria resistance via the Duffy-null trait, this one carries real evolutionary weight behind it. A specific genetic variant, known as Duffy-null, alters a protein on the surface of red blood cells that a particular malaria parasite, Plasmodium vivax, needs in order to invade the cell. People carrying this variant are essentially biologically closed off to that specific infection route entirely. It's one of the clearest, most well-documented examples of natural selection actively shaping the human genome in real time, arising independently in populations with long histories of exposure to that parasite. Unlike most traits on this list, which show up as a quirky dinner table story, this one is a documented survival advantage baked directly into blood chemistry, proof that sometimes the most powerful genetic feature isn't something flashy, it's something quietly protective you'll never even notice is running unless a doctor specifically tests for it. Down below pitch, you hear a car horn, a phone ring, or a note played on a piano, and without any reference point at all, you know exactly what note it is. That's absolute pitch, sometimes called perfect pitch. And it's estimated to occur in less than 1 in 10,000 people in the general population, though it shows up far more frequently among trained musicians, particularly those who began musical training before the age of 6. Researchers studying the trait, including work published by Diana Deutsch at UC San Diego, have found evidence linking it to both genetic predisposition and an early developmental window, suggesting it's a feature that has to be activated early or it doesn't fully install. Mozart was famously documented identifying and correcting pitch errors in orchestral performances as a young child, a party trick that turns out to have a real biological basis behind it. If music has ever felt suspiciously easy to you compared to everyone else in the room, that's not humility talking. That might genuinely be a rare feature quietly doing the work. CCR5 delta 32 last one, and it's arguably the rarest, strangest feature on this entire list. A small mutation called CCR5 delta 32 alters a receptor on the surface of certain immune cells, and in people who carry 2 copies of it, it provides a striking natural resistance to HIV infection, because the virus loses its usual entry point into the cell. This variant is thought to be most concentrated in populations with Northern European ancestry, though estimates vary and researchers still debate exactly what historical pressures shaped its spread. It's the kind of trait most carriers will go their entire lives never learning they have, since there's no dinner table version of this one, no taste test, no smell test, nothing to notice day to day. It simply sits there in the code, silently, doing its job in the background, regardless of whether anyone ever reads the file. 8 traits, 8 tiny lines of code, and the odds are decent that at least one of them has been quietly running in you this entire time without a single notification. Some of these you can test at your own dinner table tonight, others you'd never know without a lab. So which of these features do you think you're carrying? And be honest, does asparagus actually smell like anything to you? Let the comments settle that one. And if this kind of deep dive into the hidden code running under your biology is your thing, stick around and subscribe, because there's a lot more of this file left to open.